What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Inside Inter Miami. I'm your host, Andre Fernandez, joined as always by Michelle Kaufman. And your Inter Miami Soccer Club is playing for a league championship. They wanted trophies. They're on the cusp of getting one. In fact, they got the Eastern Conference Championship to add to their collection. But now they're going for the big one. There's Michelle's got the towel that they gave out the other day. Now comes the big one, where this is MLS Cup week, and the hype has not begun like I thought it would, but at least locally with the team it has. I'm sure the fan base is fired up. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But the team, to sum it all up, with all their high expectations, with their grinding schedule of 60 games and ups and downs and topsy-turvy roller coaster, they're finally playing for their first MLS Cup trophy in club history. Only the Vancouver Whitecaps stand in their way. It's a hot ticket. It's an expensive ticket. We'll talk about that too. But it should be a great game. Lionel Messi, Thomas Mueller for the Whitecaps. We'll recap how both teams got here. Miami, again, we said it last week jokingly. I think they cracked the code. They look like it again. Another 4-goal victory. They gave up 1, but scored 5 against New York City FC. Tadeo Allende with a remarkable breakthrough. Messi didn't even have to score in this game, so we'll talk a little bit about that. And we'll have reaction from Tadeo Allende, from Matteo Silvetti, who also made an impact in the game. We'll keep talking about that defense that continues to play better than it has all season. Maxi Falcone had some words to say about that. And then we'll look at Vancouver. We'll break down the matchup, why they're so dangerous. We know they had Miami's number earlier in the season, way earlier it feels like. But we'll talk about that, and we'll make some predictions ourselves. Is Miami going to pull this off? Is Inter going to finally walk away with the trophy they have long sought? But let's start, Michelle, with just 5-1. Another thrashing. Since game 3 against Nashville, this team has just flipped the switch and turned it on. And then, of course, the lineup switch really kicked it into high gear. But again, it was dicey in the 65th minute, I think it was. They were up 2-1, but then they pulled away.
Yeah, I mean, this team is, they are on a torrid pace. They're on fire. Since losing in the second game of the Nashville series, since that game, they have outscored their opponents 13-1.
Yep.
13-1 in 3 games. I mean, that, and 3 playoff games. We're talking about they're playing presumably the best teams in the East these last couple of rounds, and they have outscored them 13-1. So everything is clicking on both ends, offensively and defensively. They're scoring 13 goals in 3 games, and they've given up just 1 goal in those 3 games. The team, again, the lineup switch something. In addition to that, though, the team is just so motivated and so focused and so intense. And I just think, also rested. Let's not forget that this is the first time that this team has had 7 days in between games to get ready and to rest. This team was overloaded much of the season. They were playing every 3 days, every 4 days, and sometimes they looked it. Sometimes, to be honest, at the beginning of games, they looked, like the grind was getting to them. Right now, it's very clear. Their goal is very clear in focus. They want the MLS Cup. They've never had one. Leo Messi has every trophy in the world, probably except that one. Busquets and Alba are retiring. They want to send them away with a trophy ceremony. And, they have a lot to prove. They want to prove that they are worth all of the hype and all of the money that the owners have spent and all the hype that they get around the league and around the world. They want to show that they're worthy of it. And so they just look, in addition to the lineup change that, yes, completely changed the attack and the offense, and it does help the defense too, that Silvetti and Allende are fast and can run back and all of that. But it's also the intensity with which they're playing, the intensity. And yes, Messi, I mean, let's not forget that Messi has scored 6 goals and has 7 assists in the playoffs. 13 goal contributions, 6 goals, 7 assists in the playoffs. And one more thing, Allende, Dario Allende has just turned things on. He has 8 goals in the playoffs, which tied an MLS record. I don't think anyone had that on their bingo card. Did anyone have on their bingo card? Raise your hand. Tadeo Allende is going to set an MLS record for goals in a playoffs.
Mm.
No. He has 8 goals in these playoffs, a hat trick in this last game, back-to-back braces before that. I mean, the guy is on fire. So
What are you doing? What are you doing,
everything's looking
Tadeo?
good.
What are you doing outscoring Messi? You're not supposed to be outscoring Messi. But
It's just incredible. I mean, they really are. They're playing right now. Everyone is picking them as the favorite. They're the ones who have all the pressure and everything to lose. And Vancouver is coming in, fresco como una lechuga or whatever we say in Spanish, fresh as lettuce or whatever.
This is
Or pepino. I don't know if it's pepino or lettuce, or both.
Yeah.
Cool as a cucumber.
Yeah.
Miami is on fire. Miami has all the pressure. I think everyone is most people are picking Miami as the favorite. But yeah, the Miami team right now, let's just talk about it, just how they've turned it on. This is the team that everyone thought they could be, but they had not been until a few weeks ago.
Well, I think that's I think the unsung hero, he probably won't get playoff MVP, but the key factor, and you know this as well as I do, the Matteo Silvetti impact was tremendous to bring him in. And even before he starting, he was coming in, he was getting minutes, he was making an impact, and it prompted the lineup switch that we know when they put Luis Suarez on the bench, put him in as an alternate. And this kid has been unbelievable. And I'm going to say it again. I can't wait to see this kid in a World Cup playing for Argentina. I think for years, he's going to end up being an impactful player for the Argentine team. He's the unsung hero of this whole run. I mean, we don't know obviously how it'll end on Saturday, but regardless, he's been tremendous. I mean,
he plays with a lot of confidence. He's 19 years old. He's 19 years old. He's already making a connection with Messi. He's already bumped Luis Suarez, a Uruguayan, a legend. I mean, to see him on the bench, and a 19-year-old is the one who knocked him to the bench. Silvetti has made a big difference. He has 2 goals and 3 assists in the playoffs, but also just his energy, his confidence, the way he's playing, the way he's linking up with Leo Messi. And also it does help the defense when you have 2 younger, faster guys who can run back and defend. And Javier Mascherano has been mentioning a lot that Messi himself has also been basically leading the high press. He's been leading, he's been contributing a lot defensively as well. So just overall, the change to Rocco Rios Novo was another bold move that Javier Mascherano made just before the playoffs. He put in a new goalkeeper just before the playoffs. That is highly unusual. Very unusual. You've had one goalkeeper the whole year, and then it's time for the playoffs, and you're going to put in the guy who's never played. And that's what he did. And that decision has paid off so far. The defense is playing really well with him in the back. And then he has sort of settled on Maxi Falcone and Noah Allen as the center backs. They were rotating with Lujan, with Toto Aviles, trading in and out everybody. They seem to be settled on a back 4. When Ian Frey is healthy, it's Ian Frey, Maxi Falcone, Noah Allen, Jordi Alba. They seem much more settled with a back 4, and with having Noah Allen and Maxi Falcone. And then, just everything is, all the puzzle pieces are coming. All the puzzle pieces are coming together.
I was thinking, like when you're building a puzzle and like you finally maybe you get that key piece and you're like, oh crap, I got it. And then all of a sudden the last 5 are easy. Like that's how it feels like. It feels like you finally like those them keep saying they crack the code, like one fit, and then it's like, okay, now this and this and this, and that's it. Now just leave it, let it do its thing. And without all those switches, we don't have this happen right here. Let's show everybody the photo from last Saturday's victory. There it is. Miami adding to its championship collection that they wanted.
They got a trophy for winning the Eastern Conference. It's not the trophy, but they do add one more trophy to their very lean trophy collection.
The one they now have.
They now have a Leagues Cup, they have a Supporter Shield, and they have an Eastern Conference title. And they were very excited, by the way. They celebrated as if they had won the cup. Let's hope that they saved some energy for the actual cup that they are aiming for. But they were very excited and they deserved it. They deserved a chance to celebrate. Let's hear from Javier Mascherano, and then we're going to listen. We're going to hear from Tadeo Allende about his breakthrough and Silvetti and Maxi Falcone on the defense, all these things we're talking about. Let's hear first from the coach.
Bueno, Javier, ahora sí va a ser el partido más importante de la historia del club, ¿no? Ya, al fin está. No, si pueden hablar de la importancia, cómo jugar tu equipo en los últimos 3 partidos no se lucen diferente, lucen que están tan concentrados y enfocados y en la defensa, todo. Puedes evaluar cómo están jugando y si esperabas que iba a ser el partido así, 5-1, si esperabas eso. Gracias.
Bueno, empiezo por lo último. Claramente uno siempre, cuando piensa los partidos, sobre todo el día del partido, la noche anterior, imagina todo lo mejor, ¿no? Poder hacer un gran partido, dominar el juego, tener las situaciones más claras y claramente ganar, que al final es lo más importante de todo. Pero bueno, creo que sabíamos que iba a ser difícil. De hecho, fíjate si habrá sido difícil, que prácticamente Nueva York no generó situaciones y sobre todo hasta el minuto 60 y pico estuvo en partido. Cuando nosotros estábamos haciendo muy bien, pero bueno, una falta, un centro lateral y siempre esa sensación de que es un equipo peligroso. Con respecto a lo otro, creo que, no sé si lo dije ayer en conferencia de prensa, pero creo que en la línea de lo que vengo hablando con ustedes, el poder que tienen los jugadores cuando se convencen de cuál es el camino, yo no le diría prácticamente casi los últimos, salvo el traspié que tuvimos con Chicago, los últimos 2 meses han sido impresionantes, pero ellos de haberse convencido de hacia dónde queríamos ir, de haberse fortalecido como grupo, y hemos llegado al final de la temporada con un equipo que con una hermandad dentro del equipo, que todo el mundo tira para adelante, que no importa lo que inician, sino que somos realmente un grupo y el poder de un grupo es inquebrantable. Puede superar un montón de cosas. Seguiremos por esta línea esta semana, tratando de seguir inculcando que ese es el camino. Que bueno, que estamos a las vísperas de jugar el partido que soñábamos a principio de temporada, el último partido de la temporada, final, en nuestra casa con nuestra gente. Posiblemente será el último partido de MLS en este estadio, así que ojalá que la gente apoyarnos como nos vino a apoyar hoy, porque con ellos también somos más fuertes.
All right. We apologize for the audio. That was not our fault. That was there were problems with that audio at the press conference itself. So we tried. Pierre, our producer, did his best to make that a usable clip. I know it was a little bit garbled, but we wanted you to be able to hear from the coach on this momentous occasion. He said, I asked him, well, you heard me ask him, did he ever imagine that the game would be 5-1 and if he could evaluate his team's performance? He said, you always try to imagine the night before the day of the game, you imagine the team playing the best, you imagine them dominating, you imagine them creating chances and of course winning. And he said, and to be honest, it was a difficult game. I mean, it came out 5-1, but up until the 60th minute, even though they hadn't generated too many chances, they were still in it and they still looked like a dangerous opponent 60 something minutes into the game. But, you know, in the end, the team just all came together, and he said that I had mentioned that it seems like in the last 3 games, something changed in the last 3 games. And he keeps saying, and I don't know if this is, you know, to not insult Luis or he really believes this. I guess he really believes it, that he said he doesn't really see it as just the 3 games. He thinks that in the past 2 months, the team had been playing very well since they lost 5-3 to Chicago. And by the way, that's when they made the goalkeeper change after that game. When they gave up 5 goals to Chicago Fire, he said that that was the catalyst, that after that, that is when the team really changed and started playing well. And he went through a string of victories and you know, stuff that they had between then and the playoffs. So he said that what happened is that the team, once they start believing in what they are and who they are and what they can achieve, that's when it all comes together, and that the team has really become unified and has formed a brotherhood within the locker room, that it doesn't matter who starts and it doesn't matter who's coming off the bench. They're all unified. And when that happens in a team, he said you can overcome anything. And he really feels that that is really what happened, that the team has galvanized. The team is a team. They're unified. They're not fractured. And he said, and now we're at the cusp of playing the game that we've been dreaming of since the start of the season. And for, you know, he said his goal now is that, you know, to keep that same mentality and that same brotherhood through this final week, and that this could be the last MLS game in that stadium. And he hopes that the fans come out and support them.
Yeah, well,
So yeah, I mean, he believes that it's not just 3 games. It looks obviously in the last 3 games they're playing out of their minds, but he said that this was building. In his mind, this was building over the last 2 months since the loss to Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of see glimpses of it. I mean, I think the 4-0 win over New York in the regular season, which came after that bad loss, I think it was one of those moments. So you saw glimpses of it, but tactically, when he made that final lineup switch a couple weeks ago, that's when things finally clicked. And this team is playing faster, more aggressively on the offensive end. Their defense is also catching up better in transition, things like that. And that wasn't happening.
Yeah, they
rarely before.
I mean, they have more options with those guys flanking Messi, and Messi kind of playing as a false 9. What they can do is they know, the midfielders and the defenders know that they can send a long pass and someone will be there to receive it.
Right.
You know, if you're going to send because before they were very good, you know, possessing the ball, short passes, a lot of beautiful linking up of, you know, a lot of great passing sequences with with the ball at their feet, which is what Luis Suarez was really good at. But the idea of sending the ball long and having someone get behind the defense, that is what they were not doing as much. And now, if you're defending this team now, you're not only having to defend man-to-man because of the ball possession, but now you've got to be afraid that one of these 2 young Argentine players is going to get behind you. And before, they didn't really have to worry too much about someone getting behind them. They only had to, you know, focus on defending the players. Now they have to defend the space behind them. And that is what Silvetti and Allende, and improved Allende, have provided. Allende, he was asked about his ascendance, what's going on, and just, you know, how he's doing right now. What is it that brought him to this moment? So let's hear some words from Tadeo Allende, the new star of the playoffs.
Empatado el récord del MLS, tienen una oportunidad de romperlo en la final. Cuéntame un poquito de esta postemporada que has tenido.
Bueno, a ver, romper un récord no es nada fácil. Yo no sabía, no estaba enterado, pero bueno, yo hago mi trabajo. Cuando me toca convertir y lo disfruto. Y si no me toca convertir y tengo que dar un pase o tengo que tirar para adelante, siempre lo voy a hacer, me toque convertir o no. Y bueno, a ver, ojalá pueda hacerlo en la final.
Tadeo, se te termina el contrato a final de diciembre. Es un momento de festejo, pero ¿te irías de nuevo a Europa o tenés ganas de quedarte?
No sé, pueden pasar muchas cosas. Ahora te juro que estoy con ganas de irme a festejar y después ver qué pasa. Pero tengo una final que jugar el fin de semana que viene y estoy concentrado en eso.
Tadeo, ¿de dónde sacaste la dinamita para explotar en estos playoffs? Porque tenías un momento, vamos a decir, intermedio, pero de repente eres el goleador del equipo dándole la final.
Bueno, lo he dicho 1000 veces, este trabajo personal, he trabajado mucho en mí. Terminar de esta manera el año es muy importante para mí. Poder convertir goles es lo mejor y de qué manera, ¿no? La verdad que estoy muy contento por eso y por todo el trabajo que he hecho y me está dando frutos.
¿Con cuál de los 3 goles te quedás si te llevaste la pelota y a quién se lo dedicas?
A la pelota ya la pedí, le dediqué uno a mi mujer que estaba acá y a mi familia se lo dedico también y me quedo con el tercero, que fue una buena definición.
Físicamente te ves bastante fuerte, se nota la evolución que has tenido física. ¿Quién ha trabajado contigo ese desarrollo en esa temporada?
No, eso lo trabajo yo en el club, después a la tarde en casa, cuando tengo el tiempo libre y puedo aprovechar entrenar un poco, lo hago, así que si puedo sumar más, siempre es mejor.
Gracias.
All right, so there's Tado Allende, 8 goals in the playoffs. Who would have thought that? Not me, that's for sure. He struggled at parts of the season. There were times where he would get the ball, he'd be in a perfect position, he'd get the perfect pass, the perfect assist, and he just wasn't finishing. He's now finishing. We've always seen that he had the potential. He was at the right place, but he was not finishing. He is now finishing. He's being clinical with his finishes. He said it's not easy to set a record. I didn't even know that it was a record, but he said, obviously I enjoy when I score. That's the best thing. But I also, if I have to make the pass, if I have to just run into space, whatever I have to do to help the team, that's the most important thing. And he said, I hope that I can score again in the final. He was asked about his future because he's on loan from Spanish club, Celta de Vigo. He's on loan from them. And, the question was, what is the future? Are you going to stay here? Are you going back? He said, anything can happen. By the way, I am hearing from sources that they are going to work it out, that he can stay. So I think that is going to happen. He's obviously raised his profile with this club in the last few weeks, and I'm sure the owners would love to keep him and try to make a deal to keep him. He was asked why is he playing so well all of a sudden? He said, it's been a lot of hard work, a lot of personal hard work. And he's now, seeing the fruits of his labor. He said that, he works out at home on his own. He works out with the club. He's done everything that he can to improve himself. And he has done that. And then he dedicated, they said that he got the team ball or whatever, the game ball. He gave it to his wife who was here in town for the game, and also dedicated it to his family, who also was there for the game. So anyway, Tado Allende having a great postseason.
If look, we know Messi is, if he's physically fit to do it, can be here 2 more seasons. But if they can lock up all this young talent with like him, Segovia, Silvetti, like what a squad they'll have for a while here. I mean, Alba and Busquets are heading out after this game. This will be their last game on Saturday. So to lock up that young talent in at least a little bit of a long term would be huge. You're opening the ball, you're finally opening the stadium next year. All that sort of things to keep this franchise trending upward in the future, regardless of Saturday's outcome.
These players are starting. Yeah, the players like Tado Allende, because of what he's doing in the playoffs, all of the fans are cheering for him and they're chanting his name. And Silvetti, everyone loves a 19-year-old teenage rising star. He's kind of replaced Cremashi a little bit in the, blonde young guy, fan favorite with the young teenage girls.
Hashtag.
Yeah, the hashtag kid. They've got a good future. But we're going to stick with the present for now. And let's talk about Silvetti, actually, and, what we mentioned before, what he's brought to the team, the dynamic that he's brought, and let's hear from him. What does he have to say about what he's bringing the team right now? And getting, by the way, the assist on his goal was from Leo Messi, and that assist led Leo Messi set basically broke the world record for assists that had been there for a long time, 405 career assists. That's a record. And he did it with the assist to Silvetti. So 19-year-old Silvetti, who's from Messi's hometown, is part of Messi lore and history now.
Michelle, I think it's, before we get to the Silvetti clip, I think it's telling that this team, and you threw that stat out there multiple times about how Messi accounted for whatever it was, 70% of their goals in this season, all of that, or close to it. The fact that he didn't even score in this game, he didn't even have to score in this game. And then Tadeo took the forefront of it, but the other guys are the ones that got the goals. We know Messi still assisted on some of them and all of that, but that shows you, like we were talking about, how it almost reminds you of the Argentine team now, where Messi doesn't have to be the one scoring now, but he can still play a role and draw the defensive attention. But now you have other options. They're not as Messi.
They are still
Messi dependent, but not as much. Not as much as it was perceived to be. They showed an example of that last week.
Right. And that is what, like in any sport, if the defense knows that all it has to do is focus on one player, they have a very clear assignment. If all of a sudden now a team can score 5 goals without Messi scoring one of them, another thing that I would not have had on my bingo card, if you would have told me they're going to beat New York City FC 5 goals and Messi is not going to score any of the 5 goals. Some other people are going to score those 5 goals. So Tadeo Allende gets a hat trick and Silvetti scores and Segovia scores off the bench. Now all of a sudden you're the team defending and you're saying, okay, we have to cover Messi, but we also have to cover Silvetti. We have to cover Allende. We have to cover whoever's coming off the bench. I mean, they're a much more dynamic team with all of these players.
And think about it in the next couple of years, in Messi's should be his final 2 years, let's say, an aging Messi that may not play. Let's be real. Probably will miss games from time to time for whatever reason. Here's your new big 3 right now. I mean, Alba's going to be gone. Busquets is going to be gone. Probably Suarez at some point soon too. Here's your future of the franchise. Those 3 guys. If you can hang on to those 3 guys,
a
while, you've got something
that's
for a
great
little bit.
Trio. Yeah, let's hear from Silvetti, the 19-year-old. Let's hear what he had to say.
No sé si algo diferente, creo que uno siempre va día a día trabajando, preparándose, creo que hoy fue una oportunidad muy linda también en lo personal de jugar una nueva final y bueno, muy contento de la victoria.
¿Qué te pasó por la cabeza cuando
Perdón.
¿Qué pasó por tu cabeza al festejar cada gol sabiendo lo que viene?
Nada, la verdad que es un poco de la sensación, siempre creo que es inexplicable porque siempre me está tocando hacer goles también con pase de Leo y bueno, para mí eso es un orgullo y bueno, creo que muy contento por eso.
Sabés que estás escribiendo la historia porque con la asistencia que te dio Messi, 405 asistencias para él. ¿Qué se siente eso? Porque vas a quedar en la historia grabada tanto del club como de Messi.
Sí, bueno, creo que es el protagonista es él, creo que siempre, como dije antes, allá dije que bueno, es más fácil siempre jugar al lado de él porque te encuentro, a mí me tocó solo definir y bueno, por suerte entró, pude tirar la ventaja y bueno, muy contento también por eso.
Es notable el cambio que el equipo ha tenido con tu participación. ¿Cómo te sientes siendo tan joven tener esa responsabilidad tan grande?
Sí, no lo veo como una responsabilidad, o sea, de alguna manera igualmente sí, pero uno se prepara para esto, el rubro, el fútbol, son oportunidades, uno se prepara todos los días para esta oportunidad y bueno, trato de aprovecharla.
¿Festejan o no pensás en la final?
No, un ratito vamos a festejar porque la verdad que no es fácil llegar hasta acá, ganar esta clase de partido. Creo que nos merecemos festejar un rato, pero bueno, ya mañana concentrado que queda un partido nomás.
El significado de llegar a la final.
¿Cómo?
El significado de llegar a la final, lo que ha pasado siempre en esta temporada.
No, totalmente, creo que bueno, los chicos de un principio hicieron un trabajo enorme, me toca llegar un poco después, en la finalización del torneo, creo que también hicimos unos playoffs fantásticos y bueno, somos merecedores finalistas. Gracias.
All right. I love how he sings, the Argentine, the way they speak,
he does.
But he really sings. I almost felt like there's like a melody there. Yeah, there's like a melody
with the music.
speaks. Yeah, put the music in the back.
That's
Anyway,
what they call
he
the cantadito, the little singy voice inflection.
Yes,
Yeah.
and he's definitely got it. He was asked, what are they doing differently? He said, no, I don't think it's anything different. He said, I just think, we're just very focused, and we're very happy. He's very happy that they were able to play the way they did in that final. He called it, the Eastern Conference final. He was asked what it felt like to score. He said it's very hard to explain, but when you're getting a pass from Leo Messi, it's an honor. It's an honor to be playing alongside him, to get a pass from him. And he said that he's always the protagonist. Leo Messi is always the protagonist. It's easy to play with him because he finds you, and all you have to do is finish. He said, he makes your job easier because he finds you, and all I had to do was finish. He said, he was asked, this is a very big responsibility for someone 19 years old. And he said, no, I don't see it like as a responsibility. These are the moments that you prepare for. This is football. This is what you've been preparing for every day. You prepare for these opportunities, and I'm just taking advantage of it. And then he said, we're going to celebrate briefly here, but we know that we have one game left. So anyway, he's, seems like a really dynamic kid, very confident. He plays. I know I spoke with Taylor Twellman last week about Silvetti in particular, and he said that what really strikes him is not only what he's doing physically, but that he plays with a confidence, like he's totally ready for this moment. He doesn't shy away from this very big moment, and he's 19 years old. He has full conviction and full confidence that he belongs on the field in the biggest game and can do big things. And that's what Taylor said, stuck out to him is his confidence. And you can see it even the way he conducts himself in the press conference.
I'm telling you, Messi's Messi. I'm not comparing Messi to anybody, but this kid is going to be an impactful player for his national squad, and whoever he ends up playing throughout his career, he's going to be an impactful player. You could tell. You could just tell he's got that formula. Yeah. But on the flip side of this team's defense continues to play much better than it had the entire season. Yes, they gave up a goal, but even so, we've seen other games where it could have gotten a lot worse. And they, the couple of clean sheets already in these playoffs, and not just Rocco, but the defense in front of them, like you talked about, the switches they've made. Let's hear from Maxi Falcone about the defense's improvement throughout the playoffs.
¿Todo bien? Bien, no, muy contento, ¿no? Lo dije recién. En lo personal es algo importante para mí, levantar un título con esta gente, obviamente que siempre ganar, salir campeón, por ahí yo digo no se compra, ¿no? El prestigio no se compra, entonces nada, feliz por mí, por todo el equipo y tener acá nuestra gente también un club bastante bueno.
¿Te viste en este momento cuando firmaste ese contrato con Inter Miami?
Yo la verdad que he tenido suerte en mi carrera, llamémoslo así, ¿no? Pero siempre voy convencido en cada partido. Por momentos lo sufrimos en el campeonato, tuvimos nuestros bajos, pero siempre tuve la mentalidad ganadora, ¿no? Yo por ahí lo que no me falta nunca es actitud y el positivismo, y yo creo que eso es un fruto del día a día, ¿no? De entrenar a muerte, cada momento del entrenamiento hacerlo al 100 y como te digo, el rival también juega, va a ser difícil el partido que viene, pero nada, contento.
Hablando de esa actitud, obviamente se vieron piques en la cancha. ¿Cómo mantuviste esa energía, pasión, sabiendo que estás luchando por esta victoria?
Sí, en cada jugada, en cada tranque, como decimos nosotros, en cada duelo, hay que quedarse con algo, ¿no? Ya sea con la pelota, cortar la jugada o sacar algo positivo de la jugada y obviamente hacer nuestro juego, ¿no? Empezamos ganando 2-0, después ellos se pusieron mediante una pelota quieta, 2-1. Por ahí nosotros teníamos el control del partido, pero estos partidos son así, son por detalle. La final y nada, contento por sumar tu título, bueno, para mí, para mi carrera y disfrutarlo ahora con la familia.
Maxi, en la previa, en cuanto a ser el último partido de dos compañeros.
Sí, lo dije recién, lo dije que compartir con ellos y ganar títulos es importantísimo para nosotros. Ellos decían por ahí en la semana que podía ser el último partidos atrás, yo le decía, no, que vamos a llegar a la final, vamos a luchar por ello. Y bueno, y por todo, ¿no? Por todo el equipo, por toda la gente que trabaja y hace su trabajo invisible detrás, cocinero, utilero, todo, la verdad que se lo dedicamos también a todos ellos porque somos todos parte de, y bueno, toda la gente que nos viene a alentar.
¿En qué momento fue la anímica del equipo? ¿Cuándo se recuperaba anímicamente?
No, siempre ganar es importante, ya venimos de varios partidos buenos, hay que tratar de seguir manteniendo lo mismo. y por ahí mejorar, porque aunque haya ganado 5-1, seguramente hay errores que se cometieron y el partido que viene es en base a errores. No se puede cometer ninguno, el que cometa más errores va a perder seguramente y nosotros vamos a ir por ese título.
All right, Maxi Falcone talking about his positivity, which he does. He brings a certain energy and positivity all the time to his team, and then he irritates the other team. As you can always see in almost every game, he gets under the opponent's skin, which is part of his job as a defender. He said how excited he was. He said, "Look, you can't buy a title. You know, we had to earn this," and he said that, you know, he really felt that they would. He said, "I go into every match with a very positive attitude, with a winning attitude." And you know, he said that they were able to, and that it comes from the day to day. It comes from training super hard, giving your all, leaving it all on the field every single training session. And he said that when you're in the game, it's, you know, it's about moments. You have to win every challenge. You have to win every ball, win every tackle. And, you know, he said they're also working extra hard for Boosie and Jordy because it could be they said that in the last couple of weeks, they've been saying this could be their last games. And he said, no, we are going to reach the final. Don't worry. We're going to reach the final. It's not going to be your last game. We're going to reach the final. And he said, we've been working for those two guys, but also for everyone on the staff. He said from the cooks to the staff to everyone who works on the club, that they're doing this for them. And now, you know, it's the key for the final is going to be not to make mistakes. He said that, you know, even in a 5-1 game, he's sure that there were mistakes they made. And going against Vancouver, well, they didn't know Vancouver yet at that moment, but he said in the final, you can't make mistakes. And, you know, it's going to be whichever team makes fewer mistakes. And that's going to be their goal, to make fewer mistakes in the final.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I think they would have said that even if they had known that it was Vancouver, and it is Vancouver. And speaking of 5-1, this is a team that it feels like many moons ago, back in late April, outscored Miami a combined 5-1 in aggregate in that CONCACAF Champions Cup to kick them out of that tournament, to deny them one of the coveted trophies they were hoping to add to the collection. And they did not. But let's talk about it. Let's this be our final segment. Let's preview it. MLS Cup, it's here. You know, months later, what are we, 8 months later, almost 8 months later, since the last time these two teams met. A world of things have happened for both sides. It's a different matchup, I think. You almost have to, I mean, you can take those first couple meetings and look at it, but at the same time, this is a different Inter Miami team by far, especially, you know, tactically, what we talked about already on this episode. But let's talk about Vancouver. What makes them so dangerous? Thomas Mueller, of course, but it's more than just him. This team has a lot of firepower, and they showed it back in April.
Yeah, well, when they beat him aggregate score 5-1, they didn't have Thomas Mueller back then. Thomas Mueller was not even there yet. Was not even there yet. So no, this is a team that's very dangerous. They have a very good coach. This new coach came in, Jesper Sorensen, a Danish coach. This team was not a good team last year. This team was not expected to do anything. This is, you know, he got a lot of votes for Coach of the Year. He has done a remarkable job turning around a team that was going nowhere. And, you know, they have, look, Sebastian Berhalter has turned into a huge part of that team. This is a guy that nobody was talking about too much in the preseason. He's now on the U.S. national team. He's the son of Greg Berhalter, the former U.S. national coach, and the coach of Chicago Fire. He's a really good player, a really fiery player. He's very good on set pieces, by the way, which Miami has had some trouble with set pieces. You know, even in this last game, the set piece set up their one goal. So he's very, very good on set pieces, which is something Miami's going to have to be very aware of. He's also a team leader. They have Andres Cubas. You know, they've got a lot of good players, that it's not just Thomas Mueller. I mean, everyone is talking about Thomas Mueller, and Tomas Mueller and Messi have a history, by the way. They have played against each other 10 times between the German national team in Argentina, and also when he was playing for Bayern Munich, he played against Messi when Messi was with Barcelona and when Messi was with PSG. They've played 10 times against each other. And I know it's not a tennis match. It's not one-on-one, but the team that Mueller was on beat the team that Messi was on 7 of the 10 times. 7 of the 10 times, including in the 2014 World Cup, Germany won Germany beat Argentina in the World Cup in 2014. And also one of the more embarrassing losses for Barcelona was they lost 8-2 to Bayern Munich, 8-2 in a Champions League quarterfinal in 2020. So there's a history between those two players, and Mueller's team has had the best of Messi's team. Now, does that have anything to do with this? Not really. It's kind of interesting, and everybody's talking about it. It's two big world stars who have played against each other 10 times. This will be 11th time they meet. So that's a really good side story that everybody will be watching. But the truth is that the Vancouver Whitecaps are more than just one player. Look, they beat LAFC in the playoffs with 9 players. They were down to 9 players. They won in PKs eventually, but they were down to 9 players. LAFC had chances to beat them, being up 2 men, and they were able to hang on and push it into overtime and push it into PKs. And Vancouver wins with 9 players over LAFC, which is a very formidable opponent. So this is a very dangerous team. This is a very dangerous team.
Yeah, this is a very dangerous team. Brian White is another one that I liked a lot. I mean, Brian White is dangerous for their team.
Yes.
He torched Miami the first time a couple times himself. So, no, it's a team that, look, the Messi-Mueller matchup, it's going to be the sexy thing everybody talks about. But at the same time, it's the supporting cast. And like you talked about, this is going to be a game that they have to be completely full throttle the way they have the last few games, because I don't know about you, but I don't see them turning this one into a laugher. I think we're in for a thriller down to the wire with this game. Who knows? Maybe even extra time if they're matched up so closely. But I think it's going to be a good final. I don't expect a 5-1, 4. If they do, they do. But I just don't see that with this Vancouver team, happening the way it has to the other Miami opponents in the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't see that either. And Vancouver, like I said earlier, they really have nothing to lose. I mean, they have all the pressure is on Miami. Miami is playing at home. They're on this incredible pace. The last 3 games, everyone is just saying, "Oh my God, they're just rolling through. Nobody can beat them." So now they've got that on their shoulders. Everyone is expecting that they're going to win. They're going to be at home. All of the factors we talked about. Vancouver comes in with very little pressure. They can spoil the party. They are the ones who can spoil the Miami party and ruin the whole thing in Miami, on Miami's home field. They can ruin, but they can mess up that Sergio Busquets and Jordi Alba do not get the trophy, that Messi does not get the trophy, that the Miami fans, all dressed in pink, who are paying thousands of dollars for these tickets, they can ruin this whole party. And so that's a pretty good place to be in. If you're Vancouver, that is a pretty good place to be in. Now, Miami is playing great, like we mentioned, but Vancouver comes in with, I think it's going to be a good game. I do think it's going to be a good game.
But it's a pricey game, and you weren't exaggerating when you said they're paying thousands of dollars to see it. How are those tickets are 4 digits, Michelle, aren't they?
The tickets are 4 digits. The thing is, on Monday was only the pre-sale, where the tickets were only available to season ticket holders. People who had tickets for the season were given a priority window to buy the tickets. My husband happens to be one of them. He's a season ticket holder. He got a time slot that he had to go online to buy his ticket. The cheapest ticket, when he went online as a season ticket holder, the cheapest ticket that was available in the top corners were $350. And they were up from there, up to, $2,000, $2,500 for some of the tickets. A lot of tickets were going for $1,000, for $1,200, for $1,500. And then on Tuesday, the tickets went on sale to the general public. This game is definitely going to sell out. It is extremely expensive. I know that a lot of local fans are upset that why are the tickets so expensive? That's ridiculous. It's a very small stadium. It's 21,000 seats. I thought maybe they would move to Hard Rock Stadium if they make the final, to have more the opportunity to maybe bring in 40 or 50,000 people, and then you could have different price ranges of tickets. But when there are only 21,000 seats in the stadium, And, this is the MLS Cup final. This is like their Super Bowl. So, the sponsors, and there are going to be certain tickets that are allotted to sponsors and to dignitaries and whatever. So it's probably, under 20,000 seats that are available for purchase. And it's supply and demand. It's supply and demand. If there's only 20,000 seats and people are willing to pay $1,000 or $1,500, that's what's going to happen. And there aren't going to be any seats for under $100 because it's supply and demand.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this kind of gets into, not to get too much in the weeds with all this, because this is a whole nother topic, but the way MLS maybe sets this championship up, I know they do it at the home site of the team that has the highest seed and all of that. But I think it ties into we were hinting at it at the start of the episode. Maybe it doesn't have that Super Bowl feel as much as you do in other sports. And it's probably because they have to go, they don't know where it's going to be until the last minute. And now we know it's Miami because Miami won and all of that. But if they changed it at some point and did it at a neutral site where months ahead, or years ahead where it's going to be, and then put more around it, hype it up. I don't know if you might even need to space out the conference finals. That's a whole other problem with the calendar. The calendar's too long as it is. But even if you don't do that, just maybe a little more of that, and maybe at a venue that's bigger, that can maybe make it a little more affordable for the everyday fan to afford going to this championship game, perhaps. I mean, maybe there obviously you can get, I get it's into other matters too, but if, like you said, Hard Rock, if it was here, SoFi, if it was out in LA, places like that, and make it your neutral site championship game like other leagues do.
Yeah, I think probably because the league is still, I think it's been 30 years now, so we shouldn't say they're still they're not in their infancy anymore. They're
right.
They've got the training wheels. The training wheels are off. MLS is here to stay. It's a real league. Having said that, if they pick a neutral site like they do for the Super Bowl, then yes, the positive is that city then prepares. They are hosting the MLS Cup final, and they have activities and fan, activations and all sorts of things planned for the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday leading up to the game. And it becomes a big event, not just not just one game. It becomes a big event. I think what's happened with MLS is they've done it in the home field because maybe they feel that they wouldn't be able to fill if it was, Vancouver against, if it was Vancouver against Nashville or, whatever, Vancouver against Cincinnati, and that's your final. Are there enough fans who would travel? Fans of the league? Are there enough fans of the league their way? NFL is a giant sports monster. People go to the Super Bowl, even though they don't even, maybe, they're not even fans of that particular team, but they go to the Super Bowl because it's such a big deal. I think MLS is still building to that type of fan base nationally. And, before we go, we mentioned when we were coming into the show, Andre, that, MLS Cup final is here and Messi is in it on Saturday. And yes, within the league, everyone is talking about it within the league. People within the league, the fans who are diehard fans of the league, the media that covers the league like we do. But for the general public in the United States, when you turn on ESPN Sports Center, the MLS Cup final is not what everybody's talking about right now. They're talking about the NFL. They're talking about the college football playoffs and who's going to get in the playoffs and who's not going to get in the playoffs. And the NBA has started up and people are talking about the NBA, so it's not like the entire country is riveted with the MLS Cup final, even though Messi is in it. And it's a big deal to people who follow MLS. It's a big deal to Messi fans around the world are going to tune in and are going to watch this game and are paying attention. But on the United States sports landscape, MLS is still not, my opinion, not at the point where their championship game is on par with the Super Bowl or the NBA finals or even the NBA regular season or the NFL regular season, which is going on right now. And that is most of the coverage in sports in America is on those leagues and not on the MLS Cup final this week.
Yeah, it's relegated to the things to watch this weekend segment, instead of being like a premier thing. It's being outweighed. Miami's controversy right now with Notre Dame in college football is dwarfing the amount of attention that the MLS Cup is getting. That alone, not
Right,
even a
and
game,
that's with Messi, and
for
that's
example.
with
And
Messi.
that's
And
with
by the
Messi.
way, that's with Messi. Imagine if the MLS Cup final
Yeah.
was two other teams that didn't have Messi, it gets even less
Right.
coverage. So
No,
I
that's a
think
fair
they're
point, of
still,
course.
yeah, they're still building. They're still, yes, soccer has grown magnificently in this country. The growth has been incredible over the last 20 years, but the MLS in general and the MLS Cup final is still, still needs to build to get to the point where they could have a neutral site and expect that they're going to sell 80,000 tickets and get neutral fans to come. I'm not sure that they're quite there yet.
Yeah, it's still a bigger deal in Europe. It's still a bigger deal in Argentina. I mean, look at the time slot, 2:30. They're doing that so that Europe can
Yes.
see it in prime time. Now, 2:30, 3 o'clock, that's always the time of all these Champions League games, all these big matches in
Exactly.
America. So
Right, and that's why
they
they're
picked
doing
that.
it at that time. I know some of the
Right.
local fans were saying, "Why are they doing it at 2:30? It should be a night game." No, because they know that a lot of the people watching on Apple are watching from overseas. We know that
Right.
because a lot of those people who watch this show, a lot of people are overseas in Europe and in Asia and in Africa and other places, and so the time slot for this game is friendlier to the rest of the world because they know that there are a lot of fans that are tuning in, particularly to see Messi and Mueller. We're talking about two big global stars are going to be in this final. So there's going to be a lot of interest in it overseas, and over here it's still building.
Yeah, and it's a fair point about the neutrality and all of that because if it's not Messi, there's no guarantee it was going to be Messi. I mean, look, LAFC, they got bounced in the second round, and that was one that would have brought star power too with the guys that they have, but it didn't happen. So, but it still should be a good final. We would all recommend everyone check it out if they can. It's not only going to be on Apple TV; it's also one of the Fox networks, I believe, has picked it up as well. So you don't have to be restricted to having Apple TV to watch this game at 2:30 on Saturday. But check it out; it'll be a great final. I think an Inter Miami team with, as we've talked about, like crazy, a lot of storylines that. Now, do they get their final positive ending to all of this, or does Vancouver ruin it and make their own story because they themselves, it's overshadowed by all the star power, but they themselves are on a pretty good run, a pretty remarkable story themselves. So we'll be back next week. We'll both be there.
Are we going to make predictions?
Saturday.
What do you think?
That's right.
I think Miami's gonna win. I do.
Yeah.
Just watching what they've done, and again, no discredit. I think it's going to be a really good game. I could see it, 2-1, maybe 3-1, but I could see maybe a 2-1 game. I think that Miami will score because Miami does score, and they've scored 13 goals in the last 3 games. So I don't think they're all of a sudden going to be held to 0 or 1. I do think that they're going to score 2 or more goals, but I also think Vancouver is going to score. So I think this is going to be a very good game, but I would give the edge to Miami.
Well, I may try to reverse jinx this, but and you may hate me at 5 o'clock on Saturday for saying it, but I have a funny feeling that 90 minutes in stoppage time won't be enough for these two teams. I have a feeling that at least it's going to overtime, if not more, because this is going to be a thriller. And to echo our Apple TV guests in recent weeks, it's hard to pick against Inter Miami, and especially right now, this is a much different team than 8 months ago in the Champions Cup. So I think they find a way to pull it off and end this on a high note, but it's going to be a struggle. I could see this going, let's just say, past regulation. So, but we'll be back next week. We'll let you know. We'll go over what happened, whether it was good or bad, and we'll see you next week on the next episode of Inside Inter Miami. Until then, remember to catch us on YouTube. Catch all of Michelle's coverage leading into, during, and after the MLS Cup this weekend. We'll both be there at Chase Stadium on Saturday, and we'll bring it all to you next week. Until then, thanks for watching, everybody. Enjoy the championship. Enjoy your weekend. We'll see you next week.